At this time, I would like to introduce our moderator for today, Susan Chaffin, BCTA Program Manager. Susan heads up the BCTA Secretariat and has overall responsibility for coordinating activities with member companies and partners. Susan leverages more than 20 years of experience in financial and private sector development. She has consulted for IFC, USAID, CGAP, and the European Investment Fund. She has deep knowledge of value chain analysis and international business strategy from having worked in emerging markets for Deutsche Bank, Baring Securities in Mexico, Citibank in their Middle East Africa division, and for Visa International. Susan, I will now hand the floor over to you.
Thanks, Jessica, and welcome everybody. So today we will be speaking about empowering people through mobile technologies. This is a very popular webinar based on the sign-up, so thanks for joining us. Again, my name is Susan Chaffin. I'm the Program Manager for the Business Call to Action. Allow me to give you an overview of the Business Call to Action. So the BCTA is a global membership platform which encourages private sector companies to develop innovative business models that combine both profitability with development impact in support of the United Nations Millennium Development Goals. BCTA is supported and endorsed by 9 partner organizations, including the Australian Agency for International Development, UK Department for International Development, which is DFID, US Agency for International Development, which is USAID, Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA, UN Development Program, UN Global Compact, Clinton Global Initiative, and the International Business Leaders Forum. To date, 45 leading companies have responded to the Business Call to Action by making commitments to improve the lives and livelihoods of millions of people through commercially viable business ventures that engage low-income people as consumers, producers, suppliers, and distributors of goods and services. Our goal is to expand the network to 150 companies by 2015. Companies that join the Business Call to Action benefit from a high-visibility leadership platform, including association with supporting partner brand, possible international speaking engagements, and the opportunity for working groups. They can access a global network of knowledge on inclusive business models and communities of practice. Partnerships with development agencies and international organizations are among the benefits, as well as validation and dissemination of results. Of course, opportunities to engage in webinars such as today. I would also like to acknowledge the sponsorship with Business Action for Africa, which is a network of business and development partners working together for Africa's future, and Business Fights Poverty, which is a global community for professionals passionate about fighting poverty through business. It's a global online community of over 10,000 professionals. So we are also part of a broader series of online and face-to-face events that take place in New York, London, and Addis Ababa under the title of Business Impact for Good. Business Impact for Good 2012 event series is supported by BCTA, Business Action for Africa, and Business Fights Poverty. The purpose of the big series in today's event is to help advance understanding and deepen engagement around core issues of scale, measurement, impact of business in developing countries. So why focus on mobile and increasing access for people living at the base of the pyramid? Leveraging mobile technology clearly promotes scale and access to information, services, and financial transfer for low-income people. The unprecedented growth of mobile phone penetration is having a significant impact on people living in rural and off-grid areas in particular, connecting them to information on agricultural prices, maternal and child health care, services such as mobile financial transfers, as well as health and life insurance, which we will hear about today. Innovations in mobile technology and cross-sector partnerships have changed the landscape in developing countries, helping to elevate people out of poverty and empowering people through the press of a button on their phone. Studies show the tremendous effect on GDP from increased access to mobile technology. Ongoing innovation leads to new opportunities for growth. Today, we will hear representatives from the GSMA's Mobile Money for the Unbanked program, an initiative of one of the world's leading industry associations providing mobile technology to the base of the pyramid, They will speak about innovative products and partnerships that address financial inclusion. We will also hear from a representative of Ericsson, one of the leading telecommunications companies, and the CEO of MicroInsure, an insurance intermediary serving the base of the pyramid. We'll speak about innovative business models. On to our first speakers. So I would like to first introduce Seema Desai and Claire Penico of the GSMA Mobile Money for the Unbanked program. Seema is Director of MMU at the GSMA Association. She is responsible for defining MMU's strategy and the overall quality of delivery by the program. Prior to joining the GSMA in March 2009, Seema managed a large portion of retail savings P&L for one of the UK's largest retail banks. Seema has also been a manager at Accenture within their strategy consulting division, where she focused mainly on financial services. Seema completed 2 secondments to Accenture Development Partnerships, their nonprofit arm, and has worked in Uganda, Trinidad, Tobago, and India. She holds a first-class honors degree in natural sciences from Cambridge University. Claire is a program coordinator for the Mobile Money for the Unbanked program. In this role, she organizes key MMU events and supports the team through planning, research, and reporting. Claire conducted the MMU 2011 Global Mobile Money Adoption Survey, which I think we're going to hear about the results today. Prior to joining the GSMA, Claire worked as a consultant at Hystra Consulting and spent a year doing research at INSEAD Social Innovation Center. Her research focused on scalability issues around mHealth. She graduated from Sciences Po Lille with a specialization in social innovation and is currently working on a master's degree at École Centrale Paris. So without further ado, Seema and Claire, please proceed. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Hello everyone. To start my presentation, I'm just going to give you a little bit more background around the GSMA and the role of the development fund within the GSMA. So the GSMA, we are the trade association that represents mobile network operators worldwide. We have nearly 800 mobile network operators within our membership, as well as companies within the mobile industry like handset manufacturers, software companies, etc. So at the GSM Association, we're focused on supporting the mobile industry to advance and grow, and on identifying and creating new opportunities for our membership. Within the development fund, we are focused on identifying and creating those opportunities which also accelerate the economic, social and environmental development. So we combine industry expertise of the GSMA and its members, and also we work very closely with international agencies and non-profit organisations to incubate and replicate the development of innovative, sustainable and scalable mobile money services. The Development Fund was launched in around 2006, and the MMU programme was launched in early 2009 with funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So on the next slide, I'm sure most of the audience who are joining this webinar today are aware of the importance of financial inclusion who are unbanked and therefore are forced to use informal methods of saving, spending, sending money. And these informal methods are often unreliable, insecure and expensive. So to put a bit of colour and context to this, when natural disasters hit areas of the world like Southeast Asia, tsunamis, etc., money that is saved under the mattress is literally washed away. When there aren't any efficient ways of sending money and people have to carry money themselves on long bus rides to take money home to their families, there's a cost in terms of time and also risk of the bus or however they're transporting this money, risk that that money is actually stolen. So these are inadequate ways that people are forced to use to manage their finances. We know that although there are many people who don't have access to formal financial services, we know, like bank accounts, we do know that there are many people who have access to mobile phones. Using some of GSMA's own data from wireless intelligence around the number of subscriptions, mobile subscriptions in developing countries, we can see that mobile penetration far exceeds financial inclusion in many emerging markets across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So there's clearly an opportunity to leverage mobile technology to increase financial inclusion. Within the MMU program, or MMU, we're particularly focused on working with mobile network operators, as we see that they have significant advantages over other players which can be leveraged for financial inclusion. I want to talk through what some of these assets are. However, we do also recognise that there are other models, and we hope to see kind of more deployments being successful, whichever model that they are pursuing. And we encourage learning across a number of different players within this space. The operators do have these three assets. Firstly, their distribution channels, which they use for airtime, but which also can be leveraged to offer other services, like mobile money services. So mobile network operators typically have airtime distribution networks that penetrate even the most rural areas within developing markets. And these agents can be used to provide cash-in, cash-out services for mobile money. Mobile operators are also the proprietors of the mobile channel, so they have access to SIM card and can use their USSD channels to enable customers to securely send money and pay bills, etc. And also, mobile network operators do have trusted brands in many developing markets. If you travel into rural areas, you'll often see small shops and fences or walls, billboards painted with MNO brands and colours. These brands are part of the lives of many people, even the most rural people, and they're brands that customers trust, which is hugely important for offering a financial service. Many of you may already have heard of the leading mobile money deployment in the world today, which is Safaricom's M-Pesa service in Kenya. Safaricom launched M-Pesa in 2007, and today they have over 14 million customers who use M-Pesa to send and receive money. They have over 23,000 agents, and one of the stats that we're particularly excited about is that a huge proportion of M-Pesa's customer base was previously unbanked. So 75% of M-Pesa customers were previously unbanked, and we've seen that number rise dramatically over the lifetime of M-Pesa since it was launched. In total, over 70% of Kenya's adult population uses M-Pesa. There are a number of other deployments that also exist out there. In fact, we know that there are over 100 live deployments in the world today, although many of them at the moment are still in their early stages of development and face some significant barriers to reaching scale. And the Mobile Money for the Unbanked program exists to support these deployments to overcome these barriers. So I want to spend the last few moments before I hand over to Claire to talk to you a little bit about what some of these barriers are. So operational hurdles. Mobile network operators and other mobile money providers need further support to better embed existing best practices around how to better leverage distribution channels for mobile money, how to better build, incentivize and manage agent networks, in particular agent liquidity. Market segmentation is also important, making sure that appropriate research is done to identify what customers' needs truly are for financial services within a market, and making sure that products are adequately meeting those customer needs. Driving customer activation is important. We've seen many deployments succeed in registering many customers, but what has been more of a challenge in some markets is activating those customers, turning them from registered customers to active customers who are using those services regularly. And as with any financial service, fraud and risk management is also important. So they're all examples of areas where there are some existing best practices which we'd like to see embedded more effectively, and where we also have some stuff to learn in these areas too. Regulation remains an issue in many markets. Financial regulators control or regulate mobile money, given it's a financial service. And there are some barriers which exist which either prevent some deployments from launching, or more commonly are preventing deployments from achieving significant scale and their full potential for financial inclusion. We've seen investment as being one of the challenges as well. We promote to operators, or explain to the industry how mobile money is not like a typical value-added service. It requires significant upfront investment to help to make sure that the services are being marketed properly, to make sure that the right technology is in place, to make sure that agents are properly trained, etc., etc. So there is a need for significant upfront investment to be made and adequate investment over the course of as the deployment grows and develops, to make sure that that network effect kicks off, and that a critical number of customers are required to keep the service sustainable, make the service sustainable. And this is a young industry. There are still a number of learning gaps where we can learn about mobile money, particularly around broadening the range of products that is being delivered through the mobile channel. And we see predominantly person-to-person money transfers as being a common product that's being offered by mobile money services, by mobile money deployments, and bill pay, but there's certainly an opportunity, we believe, to extend the range of services to meet more of the financial needs of unbanked customers, such as savings and microinsurance and microcredit. So at this point, I'd like to hand over to Claire Pennicoat to share some data and analysis from a recent survey that we conducted at the GSMA, which will provide a view of the size and growth of the mobile money industry today. Claire.
Thank you, Seema. So since the launch of our program in 2009, we've been tracking the number of mobile money deployments serving the unbanked, and that number has increased significantly from 17 to 123, and the services are now available in 61 countries. Today, the most common services offered are P2P transfers, bill payments, and airtime top-up, while a handful of deployments are piloting innovative services such as micro savings or microinsurance, and Richard will talk more about this later. We've also seen that 76% of current live deployments are led by mobile network operators. Ultimately, however, we're interested not in how many services there are, but in how many customers are using them. So as Seema mentioned, in August 2011, our team conducted the first global mobile money adoption survey to better understand the state of the mobile money industry. 52 mobile money deployments participated to that survey and shared with us on a confidential basis key operational data, including number of customers, both registered and active, the volume of transactions processed across a range of transaction types, the number of agents, and this for December 2010 and June 2011. The 52 participants to our survey together reported over 60 million registered customers in June. This number understates the number of customers who are using mobile money because it excludes customers who transact solely over the counter and who do not need to register to transact. Within our sample, 11 services reported having more than 1 million registered customers in June 2011. A much smaller number of customers, however, 6 million, were considered active, although this number excludes active customers of Safaricom M-Pesa and Smart Money. Of the other 50 services in our sample, only 2 reported having more than 1 million active customers. So what you see on this slide in dark green is the actual number of active customers, whereas what is represented in a lighter shade of green is the portion of customers that are registered to mobile money but not using it actively. So this slide also demonstrates the wide variation in the active rate that we can observe across deployments. In our sample, we saw active rates as high as 99% and as low as 0.2%. Finally, The survey has allowed us to quantify the growth of the mobile money industry for the first time. And it is clear that mobile money is growing fast by conventional standards. So the numbers shown on this slide are annualized growth rates that are based on the data that we have for December 2010 and June 2011 and exclude Safaricom, Smart and Globe data. For instance, the rate of growth for the number of registered customers is 49%. Over the same period of time, the number of mobile subscribers of the participating operators grew on average by 11%. So growth rates are even higher if we look at number of active customers, transactions and payments. So in conclusion, mobile money is a very dynamic sector, growing very quickly. And while M-Pesa's success is still unequal, we're pleased to see that a group of much younger services are following the same path to success.
Claire, are you all set then? Thank you. I wanted to just remind the participants that they're welcome to submit questions. We have a few questions. Also, I'm going to give just a little bit of a brief summary here that we heard there are 2.7 million people who are unbanked, so there's high market potential. Also, GSMA MMU mentioned the high upfront investments. They also mentioned things such as the need for agent training, awareness raising, regulatory barriers, alignment of stakeholders, the difference between active and registered customers, and the customers that use more than one service. So please be thinking of your questions as we listen to our next speaker, Karin Sigby, who is the Director for Corporate Responsibility, Projects and Partnerships, and Sustainability at the Ericsson Group. She has worked in the telecommunications industry for more than 15 years, holding positions in product management and development, project management, supply, and sourcing. She has also managed customer projects with respect to quality assurance, supply chain, and has worked with both network equipment and handsets. For the past 4 years, Karin has worked in corporate responsibility and sustainability for the Ericsson Group and the business unit of Global Services. Karin is currently responsible for Ericsson's proof of concept projects demonstrating how developing nations and individuals can viably seize the opportunities of the network society. Before joining the Ericsson Group, Karin worked as a management consultant at Recomat AB. She holds a Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Chalmers University of Technology in Sweden. Thanks, Karin. You can go ahead.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you everyone participating in this webinar. It's a great honor to be sharing the work we do and have a discussion on how we can bring technology to really support good all around the world. So my presentation is basically around how technology can be used for good and spreading services needed for everyone and make that accessible. I will start very quickly by explaining a little about Ericsson, because Ericsson is a business-to-business company, which means that we serve the mobile operators, which is then the customer base for GSMA, which was described before. So we serve, for example, Safaricom, MTN, etc., with all the network equipment and services to actually run the networks in which all these different services use for getting served. We're a Swedish-based company, but we have customers in more than 180 countries. If you look on mobile calls, 40% of the world's all mobile calls pass through networks we have provided to the mobile network operators. And we have been 135 years in the telecoms market and more than 100 years in Africa. With our own offices, etc. Just to give you a little brief overview, what is it we have as a products, I will share the history of innovations, where we started in 1876 with the telephone and switching. You switch the phone calls and the automatic switching throughout to today's LTE networks. So to the right-hand side, you can see some of the products and the product evolution which we provide to the mobile network operators. This position we have enables us to be agnostic in the sense of which device you use to access the services. So for example, you could access the mobile money service via a handset or via a phone or via a smartphone or a pad or whatever. We are the backbone of that delivery of the service. Also, we don't develop the practical solutions, but we support the mobile operators to understand in what way the network as such can be used to a great extent. And we work very closely together with GSMA in order to serve the mobile operators with insights in a great way. So based on that first description, I would like to walk you through in what way we work with technology for good in this specific topic as of today. So coming into mobile technology and the empowerment of that, we work with two different focus areas. One is the socioeconomic benefits, and how can we as a telecommunications network provider contribute to making sure that everyone get access to services such as health, education, livelihood, money services, etc. through the commercial networks. And we also work very actively with the energy, environment and climate change area with the same focus. And basically what we do is that we support and take the risk together with mobile operators to see how we can build sustainable business cases by expanding into offering services fit for user segments. And we also show governments what value can be delivered using the commercial network. And what we have selected strategically to do is to work from the Millennium Development Goals. So we, as Ericsson, have committed to help to achieve the Millennium Development Goals by promoting affordable access to telecommunications. And what I wanted to show here is that we have heard in the introduction that access to telecommunications and mobile phone spread is increasing dramatically. And this is, of course, the basis for our thought that the commercial build-out and the drive of the accessibility is something that could be used very well to mitigate on the world's most challenging questions. So we have more than 6 billion mobile subscriptions worldwide, where more than 40% are in sub-Saharan Africa, which is, of course, much more than the internet access points. And when it comes to voice and mobile subscriptions, what we show also on this slide, in which we try to advocate, is around the mobile broadband to enable even better services. As we think that there is a business case, and we also show that for example, serving healthcare staff in remote areas with training via video is something that can help mitigate the knowledge gap between and the knowledge educational problem, for example, for healthcare workers in many parts of the world. And that is one of the possibilities by using the build-out of different accesses. So how do we do that, and how do we share and drive this? What we do, which is very basic for us, is that we take part in active implementation of proof of concept projects showing that there is a sustainable business case for all actors within the area. We are not doing philanthropy, we're doing it with core business. we partner with our customers, which is then the leading mobile operators of the world. As we are not then experts in either health or education or livelihood, we partner with someone who is that. So, for example, we partner with UNHCR, we could partner with World Meteorological Organization, and we build a partnership to describe and understand and build a concept around how can you actually solve the issues of delivering services, information, knowledge to everyone. And then we do an impact assessment, monitoring and evaluation, etc. What is very important when we work on this is that we want to build on the sustainable scale of the mobile development. It actually is spread. It is there. It is just that you have to be used in a smart way, just as the mobile money has shown that this is something that can be used. What we try to do is to show the same kind of business cases for education and health, which are even more complex than mobile money. But it's very important for us to show that there are business models which are sustainable over time, so that actually each of the actors can afford, for example, which was mentioned before, and marketing, making sure you have the intermediaries and reach out to make your subscribers to the service active and not only passive. So that is included in the models we work with. So to give you a little more flesh on the bones, I would like to share with you a couple of the initiatives we're working on. The first one is Connect to Learn. It's one of our flagship programs which we work together with Earth Institute and different mobile operators around the world. What we do is that we want to support access to secondary education and quality learning, and we want to make sure we can support advocates for learning and 21st century learning. And this is especially then for more rural areas. So what we have done is that through our technology knowledge, we see that mobile broadband actually can help deliver a 21st century education. However, this is of course in very much of the forefront of using mobile broadband. And here we are not the educational experts, and that's why we work together with the Earth Institute, for example, in understanding how this could be done. What is interesting with Connect to Learn is that when you look into the business case of how can learning be taken to the next level, one is the connectivity. You need a mobile broadband in order to be able to share the best. For example, if you want to share the best of lessons from other parts of the world, then you need a good network connectivity. And the other thing is that if you want to use computers in school, there has been a number of those initiatives, and some of them have had issues with actually the schools not having proper IT support. So once you have connectivity, which hasn't been a case everywhere, then the problem of downloading and upgrading the computers in a dusty environment has been another problem, which is of course a very costly issue. So coming to the educational question, we work with all of these areas. For example, what is a durable laptop? What does it look like in that environment? And we also work with the absolute most forefront technology, which is then cloud technology, in order to minimize the operational costs for involved parties. So all content is then on the cloud, which means that you don't need very heavy IT support expenses. And this is the way how you can work to mitigate and find through technology. Advanced technology is actually needed to help mitigating some of these challenges, where operational costs is of course a big challenge. Another of the examples I want to share with you is where we work with refugees. one of the most underserved segments in the world is refugees, and they also, a lot of them are fear of persecution. And in order to support that, we have joined with UNHCR and a non-governmental organization called Refugees United, where we have ported their internet and laptop version into a WAP tool, a web internet-based mobile phone tool. And here what we do is that we have, with our knowledge, previous knowledge, adapted it to actually work with any connectivity. It has a lot of similarities with the mobile money in the area and how do you reach out and explain the service to people who are to use an internet service for the first time. Interestingly enough, we see that there are mobile phones even in refugee settlements in the most remote areas. Even if you're illiterate, you do use the mobile phones. And the service as such is aiming to help refugees to find lost family, which is one of the most common events that happen when you flee from your normal building, is that you actually don't know the whereabouts of your sister, your brother, your mother, etc. And there has up till now not been any way to actually find each other, where of course telecommunications and the communications means is a perfect solution to that. One of the main challenges is here, of course, to make it a privacy and also to explain and get the education, understanding what happens when you use telecommunications and when you post data onto the networks. The last I want to share with you is an activity on Lake Victoria, which was started quite many years ago, but by now we have a pilot in the Lake Victoria at the Kalangala Islands in Uganda with 1,000 fishermen, who has been provided through a public partnership with the World Meteorological Organization and Uganda Department of Met in providing tailor-made weather warnings every morning to fishermen on their specific area, fishing area in the lake, whether it's safe or not to go out or to take precautions. This is together with MTN Uganda, and we have made surveys with all the fishermen, but also looked into what is the viable business case for actually paying for the service and what value does it have to the fishermen. And what we've seen is that there is a big value of getting the information. There is a business case for at least covering expenses for the involved parties, and that the tool is used in order to prevent deaths on the lake by actually doing simple things as filling up more fuel before going out on the lake in order to be able to get back to shore if winds and waves are getting high. Basically, that is what I wanted to share today on how we try to show how technology can be used for good and by empowering people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karin. So far we have heard about mobile money transfers, about the use of mobile phones for refugees, for education, for health, and for fishermen. Now we invite Richard Lefley to speak. He is the founder and CEO of MicroInsure. Richard pioneered the introduction of insurance products within the Opportunity Network, which led to the establishment of MicroInsure in 2006. As a leading insurance intermediary for the poor, MicroInsure provides life, health, and weather index insurance to over 200,000 people in 7 countries in Africa and Asia. In October 2007, MicroInsure was awarded a $24.3 million grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to expand its pioneering microinsurance and experiment with a wider range of distribution channels. Prior to the establishment of MicroInsure, Richard joined Opportunity International in January 2002 from Benfield Grieg, now Aon Benfield, a leading reinsurance intermediary, where he worked as a reinsurance broker responsible for the African account and worked in a team covering the Middle East and Southeast Asia. Richard also serves on the steering committee of the ILO Microinsurance Innovation Fund, a $35 million fund provided by the Gates Foundation. Richard, go ahead, and thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be with you today. I've been asked to talk a little bit about how the microinsurance community has started to work to provide access to insurance to millions of people through mobile phones. Microinsure is part of a much wider community which is serving in excess of 500 million people, and insurance is growing very, very fast. Access to insurance for poor people has grown fast since, I think, the last survey in 2007, which had 70 million people. A recent survey by the ILO's Microinsurance Innovation Facility estimated that there were roughly 500 million people now who have access to insurance for the first time. So I've been asked to introduce a little bit about Microinsure and then talk about the work we've been doing in Ghana with a couple of the mobile phone networks. Microinsure is a dedicated microinsurance provider. We don't serve the commercial sector. There are certainly a wide range of players who are providing insurance to the poor, including many of the world's largest commercial insurance companies. We started in 2002 working within Opportunity International to provide a very basic range of insurance products, and we soon realized that poor people wanted a wide range of products, and in order to do that we needed to establish a dedicated platform, and that's really why Microinsure was born, following significant funding from the Gates Foundation. At the end of last year we were serving 3.4 million clients. Actually today, I just checked, we crossed 4 million clients, so more than 4 million clients being served by Microinsure today. And we are currently growing in excess of 200,000 new clients a month, principally with focus in Africa, but also in Asia through the Philippines and India. For me, I actually got involved from reinsurance into microinsurance because I found myself sitting under a tree talking to a group of ladies, and I'm sure many of you have done something similar, but this one lady really had a profound effect on my life, and she was trying to explain to me why or how her life needed assistance. And she said that her life was a little bit like a game of snakes and ladders or chutes and ladders. She was trying to work her way out of poverty, and microfinance organizations provided her with loans which were very helpful in helping her move her way out of poverty. But she was concerned why the development community wasn't there at the time of need in terms of funerals or floods or unexpected medical needs. And she likened those events to the snakes on the snakes and ladders board that caused her to slip back down into poverty. And so we see insurance, or the provision of insurance, as a safety net that stops people sliding back into poverty. But if we look at the data, then we can see that a very small number of people in the developing world really buy insurance. If you look at GDP, you can see that. But the statistics speak for themselves. More than a quarter of people who go to hospital in India, when they go into hospital, they're above the poverty line. When they come back out, they're below. So if we accept that poor people need insurance to stop them slipping back into poverty, then you have to ask yourself how to do that. And for us, we use this framework whereby we say that there are really three key roles that need to be performed. Someone has to carry the risk. This generally is insurance companies or reinsurance companies, but it can also be cooperatives. We then need someone who has access to the client base, so this is the front office. And these organizations need to be trusted by the poor, they need to be accessible, and they also need to be able to transact cash. And typically these organizations are microfinance organizations or mobile phone companies, although we have tried to work with retailers and a range of religious organizations as well. And then thirdly, there needs to be a back office, and this back office has to design products and processes. It needs to provide training and education to the consumers, and it needs to be able to collect biometric information about who the clients are. But the most important thing it does is pay claims. I think over the last 10 years, one of the key learnings, they're educated about insurance, they are elastic on price, but they're not elastic on claims turnaround time. So if you don't pay claims quickly, then you will very negatively affect demand. So within this framework, microinsurer's model has really evolved over the last 4 or 5 years. Initially, we started working with local insurance companies, but we became fairly frustrated that many of those insurance companies couldn't design products that were simple enough, simple so that they could be understood, but also simple so that they could be administered cheaply. And so we started to set up our own reinsurance cell captives outside of the countries, using the local insurance companies to issue the policy, but then reinsuring the risk to the cell captive. As microinsurer, we've worked with a range of front office partners, including microfinance organizations, NGOs, VSLAs, and SACCOs. But we're really excited by working with the mobile phone companies, and we're working with a number of mobile phone companies now, including Tigo, MTN, You, and also, I can't tell you who it is, but a big Asian group of mobile phone networks in providing insurance to the poor. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Our role is really, as I've said, to design products and processes, provide education, collect client data, and play a role in making sure claims are paid quickly. And whilst we started off as an insurance broker, we've recently become a reinsurance cell manager. We've also had to establish our own third-party administration functionality to pay health insurance claims, and we do some consulting work. So onto mobile phone networks. Basically, this all sprung out of some work we were doing with our clients, and we were asking our clients who they trusted. And it was very clear they didn't trust the insurance companies. They trusted the church or the synagogue or the mosque much more than they trusted their insurance company, and they trusted their mobile phone company by far the most. In fact, they also trusted Coca-Cola as a brand which is just about ubiquitous. And so we started to turn our minds to how insurance could be sold alongside these mobile phone offerings, and we realized that the mobile phone companies had an issue in terms of the loyalty of their customers, and they were interested in the ARPU, the average revenue per user, and also the churn rate. So we decided to see whether insurance would make customers more loyal. So we convinced an insurance company, or we worked with a range of partners to convince an insurance company to embed insurance into the airtime sale. And so these products, as we'll see in a minute, were offered to clients. The more airtime you bought, the more free insurance you received. And then the model has a second stage whereby you, having created a client base who now trust insurance for the first time and have seen that it works, you then start to sell freemium products. So these are kind of additional, you can add additional family members, or you can increase the indemnity limit. And then the third stage is to sell standalone products, which sometimes with the premiums being deducted from the airtime balance, and sometimes the premiums being collected through mobile wallets. I'm going to show you two examples. One is Tigo, which is a partnership with Tigo, Bima, Milvik, and a range of insurance companies. And this is the kind of first stage product. This is a product where the more airtime you spend, so you can see here, I think, these are the levels of airtime that you spend. So if you spend 5 CDs of airtime in January, then in February you receive 200 CDs of free insurance. If you spend 25 CDs in January, then you receive 800 CDs of free insurance. And you receive this text message, telling you how much airtime you spend every month, and how much insurance you've got. And these text messages are a great way of educating the consumer base, and obviously continuing to change client behavior. So of course the mobile phone companies are happy to continue paying these premiums if they're seeing increases in ARPU as a result of more loyal customers. And so if people are interested in that, we can talk about that. The second model is one that was launched with MTN, and MTN wanted to increase the uptake of their mobile wallet and the transactional volume across their wallet. Like the GSMA presentation highlighted, that there's huge variability between uptake and then usage of these systems. And so this was using a USSD menu which appears on your phone, and you can opt in. This is totally voluntary insurance. You can decide how much cover you would like to buy and which members of your family you'd like to cover. And so the premiums range from 35 cents up to $1.75 per month. This is deducted from your mobile wallet automatically once you have signed up and decided what you want. And there are obviously differing levels of cover according to the premium. And this product is a voluntary product, and the premiums are deducted from the mobile wallet. Just some of the kind of things that we've learned, I think it's been really exciting to us to see the take-up of these products. In Ghana last year, more than 1 million people signed up and have gained access to insurance for the first time. That meant that the market for insurance more than doubled in Ghana during the course of that time. Just to give you some idea, that means that more than 5,000 people a day are actually signing up for these products. And in partnership with Tigo and Milvik, these products are starting to expand to other countries as well. The second stage within the Tigo model was to introduce a new product called Extra, where you can pay, I think it's 1 CD per month to double your indemnity. So if you die, you get double the limit. Microinsure is then working with a large Asian-based mobile network operator with more than 100 million subscribers, and later this year we'll be launching a similar approach across a range of 5 Asian countries. Just want to touch basically on the challenges here. I think like all things in microinsurance, microinsurance is heavily dependent on the partners that distribute the product, and so if you want to be successful in providing insurance, you really need to understand what is going to motivate your partner. In the case of Tigo, that was increased ARPU and more loyal customers. In the case of MTN, it was higher take-up of the mobile wallet and more transactions. There are some regulatory risks and challenges that exist where insurance meets kind of branchless banking, and those things are being worked out, especially in relation to use of signatures. So typically in insurance, someone has to sign a piece of paper to say that they accept the insurance. Obviously, we're trying to get people to accept this using SMS, take up. So that's a bit of a challenge. Bearing in mind the time, I want to leave as much time as possible for questions. So I'll be quiet. If there are other questions, please do get in touch with me at info@microinsure.com. Thank you.
Richard, fantastic. I really like that image of the snakes and ladders, or chutes and ladders. I also will note 2 comments that you made. One was about people living at the base of the pyramid actually do have price elasticity. We know that as well from savings products for microfinance, but they're not elastic on the turnaround time for the claims. And also there's a major issue of trust. There were some people that asked questions that in addition to the Coke brand, what other brands did people trust? You mentioned, of course, their religious organizations. And a question came up about as to whether you had tried to work with Coke. I think I'm going to put that on the shelf for just a moment, and we're going to get back to regulatory issues because that's something else that you brought up. And it was also raised during the GSMA part of the presentation. So there's many aspects to regulatory barriers. Basically, by introducing mobile money transfers and microinsurance and allowing access to customers, you have issues that include know thy customer. You also have issues that are around, the difference between the mobile network operator and the bank, who gets the carry. And so some people were wondering, do the regulations also protect the customer, the consumer or user? Are they enabling banks to maintain their competitive market space? Can the people from GSMA and then maybe Richard chime in about some of the significant and relevant regulatory issues? And I believe it's because these are multi-stakeholder partnerships, so it's a little bit more complex. Claire and Seema, go ahead if you can start, and then Richard pick up. Thanks.
Sure, yeah, thank you. Regulation, it varies market by market. You're right that there are a number of regulatory issues that need to be considered. Mobile money, as I said in my presentation, it's a financial service, therefore financial regulators seek to regulate it and make sure that all the risks are, or as many of the risks of offering a service are mitigated as effectively as possible by the service provider, whether that service provider be a bank or a mobile network operator. What we try and promote within the GSMA and with the mobile money providers that we support is the idea that mobile money is an alternative to cash and is safer than cash transactions. There's more. There's an audit trail for transactions. It's more secure. You have to use a PIN to be able to access your mobile wallet rather than cash being in your pocket or under your mattress. It's safer than cash. mobile money requires, therefore, to be kind of regulated in a way that is proportionate rather than as extensively or rigorously as full bank accounts are. Typically, we see or we know that mobile money transaction limits are controlled. The size of transactions, or the number of transactions and value of transactions is something that is is capped often, because what we want to do is use mobile money to increase financial inclusion, to increase to allow poor customers on low incomes to be able to use these services. And those kind of customers don't necessarily have all of the paperwork, like proof of address, multiple forms of ID that sometimes regulators are requiring in order to fulfill very stringent know your customer regulations. So we try and make sure or encourage regulators to regulate these services proportionately, so that the goal of financial inclusion can be achieved and isn't, and requirements on customers aren't, or service providers aren't so onerous that they make it difficult to allow customers to sign up, or for providers to make these services available in a sustainable way.
Yeah, and sorry, this is Richard. I mean, the thing about insurance is that the insurance regulator has been used to insurance being sold through agencies, through agents and brokers, since pretty much 100 years or 150 years ago. So that's a well-accepted method of selling, and so the insurance regulators just see mobile phone companies as being an agency of the insurance company, and so that there are less challenges there. Where it is challenging is where technology is moving much more quickly than the regulator can move, so specifically around kind of what we call wet signatures. You know, do we actually have to get someone to sign a piece of paper, or can we get an exemption whereby an SMS is considered to be their signature? And so those are the kinds of factors that have caused kind of issues. But of course, then as we interface with, you know, like our colleagues from the GSMA are saying, where you start interfacing with branchless banking and mobile wallets, then the regulators, you suddenly switch over to the banking side, and that's a lot more challenging. But in most cases, we don't have to get involved in that. So it's normally been taken care of by GSMA or someone else.
Thanks. I wanted to connect this to an issue that Karen raised, which is Karen said that she's working with refugees. So refugees often may not have an identification paper with them. So I'm wondering how this affects your activity. And also, Karen, it seems like you did describe a mix of philanthropic and commercially driven activity. Refugees are a challenging population, so is base of the pyramid. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy in that area?
Definitely I can. I think you're absolutely right. The line between philanthropy and commercial is more or less dependent on what time horizon you have from our point of view. Is it do you need payback in the next 18 months on your investment, or can you see it as an investment for a longer term building markets? And I would say from our point of view, being then serving our customers, which is the operators, to be moving into riskier areas or less profitable areas, seemingly, then we have a long time horizon. I think this specific service is actually totally free of charge. I see a lot of similarities to what Richard says about the benefit, and it's more of an indirect benefit of the average revenue per user, and mobile operators really want to get the networks to be used and to get used to services. And of course, this is then a long-term hope that even refugees will continue using the services, and then of course pay for any operational expenses or capital investments needed in those very remote areas. And I would say you should know that even though we talk about digital inclusion here, in very many remote areas, specifically in Africa where the population is very dense, the connectivity is still not very great, actually. So that is still a challenge to get everyone on board to access even basic mobile money services. Specifically for the refugees, it is not a commercial service as such. However, they actually pay for the accessing the data. And there is another interesting question about mobile operators' data schemes, which is not very common in only for SMS, but coming into using internet and WAP, which is then relatively cheap, etc. So there is a lot of challenges, a lot of things that could be and will be explored in driving this forward.
Thanks, Karen. You know, I see that we're at 11, but we have many people on the call and we've gotten a lot of questions. If we can indulge you, we will take it to about 5 or 10 after the hour, and you're welcome to stay on, and then we will cap up. I'm going to combine a few questions here. So naturally, people have inquired as to the ability of customers to recharge their phones. So what do people do in areas where there's not a lot of electricity? And this sort of relates to the question about why are there so many more registered mobile users or mobile money users than there are actually active clients? And a third question related to what is an important role for social entrepreneurs in this space, given the existing role of the mobile network operators and the financial institutions. So I will sort of let the speakers chime in on which is the question they feel best qualified to answer. Thank you. Well, maybe I ought to ask GSMA then to speak about an electricity issue or the gap between registered and active clients. Can you say something, Claire or Seema? Okay. Karen or Richard, are you still on the line?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Okay, maybe we lost some people. Well, Karen, I think you were getting to this issue that obviously in many of these areas electricity would not be available, so people are not going to be able to use their phone. Maybe Richard can speak about what he imagines is the gap, the reason between the registered users and the active clients. People were asking things like, does one consider top-up being active? Is a money transfer or an insurance transaction? You talked about ARPU and average use. Can you fill us in, describe a little bit about the differences between registered and active and why that there might be a gap there?
Okay, should I start with the energy then? I'll be really
Sure.
brief. I think you're absolutely right. Charging phones is one of the most critical questions. I think here we see a lot of micro business in ways of doing that. Well, can you charge and you should recharge batteries via cycles and etc. There is a lot of different ways, and of course solar chargers is one way of doing that. We have been looking into that, as has GSMA, I know, because to have a mobile coverage, you need to power up the mobile radio base stations. So we need power anyway, or the mobile operators. So anywhere there is coverage, there is a power somewhere. So the question is more, how do you can you use that power that is powering up the network in order to provide energy to villages as well? And there has been quite a lot of work on that, where Ericsson is one of the actors in developing that type of services to actually withdraw excess power from the radio base stations implemented.
Richard, are you still with us?
Yeah, I think I think GSMA would be better to answer that question. But I mean, there's a difference between mobile top-up, which is people purchasing money to spend through text and voice, and then transactional volume. And I think the GSMA study was looking at how many users there were of mobile money, and then whether they were actually active in using their account. My personal experience, and I'm by no means an expert in this, but my personal experience is that quite often people sign up and then they forget how to use it, or they have a specific reason why they wanted to use it to transfer some money. But there are a very small, like the GSMA study showed, there's a small segment, less than half, who actually regularly use mobile money for transferring money for various services. Now, of course, it's a little bit chicken and egg. It's, if there's no services available, so if there's no insurance products to buy or water bills to pay or other services that you can use, then it's difficult for people to use it. So you need to have a range of services that people could use their mobile money for, and then that by itself encourages people to store money on their mobile account and to actually spend money. And that's one of the reasons why people like MTN wanted to introduce a range of services so that people had more reason to use mobile money.
Richard, I think I'm going to ask you the last question, and then we'll have a very brief wrap-up. We have a lot of questions about the microinsurance product, and it's basically for the health and life products. If you can briefly describe some of the differences in terms of, are they adequately able to meet the needs of the people that you're selling the products to? That clearly there is a demand, but is this supply-driven or demand-driven? And also, what have the studies shown, or is it too early to see the results or impact of having this insurance made available to the base of the pyramid? Thanks.
Well, the reason we started with life insurance in Ghana is because it's the country that has the highest cost for funerals on a PPP basis, on a purchasing power basis. So funerals are a big thing in Ghana, and people spend a lot of money, on them. So a funeral for a mother can cost up to $10,000, which is a lot of money for a low-income family. So the products that we designed try to strike a balance between paying some contribution towards that, so the top end a few $1,000s, compared to not receiving anything. And people are what we found was that insurance is a very sticky product. So if you spent one marketing dollar on buying a baseball cap or on a pen, then that will have a certain effect on client behavior, making them a slightly more loyal customer. But if you spend that same dollar on a free insurance product for them, they become a much more loyal customer because they value insurance much more highly than receiving a free baseball cap. And so this is at the center of the approach, is that if you can change client behavior by offering them a product that they value and that they haven't had before, then they go from thinking that insurance is a rip-off and that the insurance companies don't really pay claims to saying, actually, we're seeing claims being paid within 72 hours. We've seen people in our community who have benefited. And I think the beautiful thing about the product in Ghana is that it's not actually called insurance. It's called family care. And that product has worked very well because people don't associate it with insurance. They associate it with their mobile phone company, who they intrinsically trust, and they think it's some kind of other financial service. It's not insurance. They don't necessarily associate it with insurance, and so they're willing to trust the product, and that's worked very well. In terms of value for money, I mean, I can't disclose to you what percentage of the premium goes back by way of claims because it's there's an exclusivity, but it does represent good value for money. You're going to have to trust me on that one. And it's enabled more than 1 million people to gain access to insurance for the first time, and to then a large percentage of those have then gone on to actually opt voluntary to buy a top-up product. So you start them with a very basic product like life insurance, and of course it needs to make sense for the mobile phone company as well. So they need to see an increase in ARPU or a reduction in churn in order to justify spending the money on premium. But then once you've got this kind of captive client base, you can sell additional products into that client base.
Richard, thanks a lot. So now I'm going to get to the wrap-up. It's clear, based on the questions and the number of participants, that we have barely scratched the surface of this very interesting topic where innovation is a constant and it's quite dynamic. To refresh your memory, GSMA, which is one of the leading mobile association, they have a website you can go to. They've got mobile money for the unbanked. They have M-Energy program, which focuses on energy for off the grid. M-Health, M-Agri, and M-Women, trying to reduce the gap between women who have access and use of mobile phone technologies. Ericsson, a very large company with a long-standing history in this space, is enabled through its deep experience and resources to innovate in many different ways, talking about the lifespan of products going from philanthropic business development right on to core business and integrated. Microinsurance reflects the innovations of its founder, who has a long history in the reinsurance business as well as with an NGO and with microfinance, and that small enterprise has grown very rapidly, reaching millions very quickly through partnerships with the mobile network operators and through thinking creatively about the appropriate products for the base of the pyramid, as well as what are the needs of the mobile network operators. So we learned a lot today. We look forward to having you on our next webinar about a month from now, and I thank both the speakers and the participants. Have a great day or evening, depending on where you are in the world.